Are back on PALS TV for our lunchtime edition. Up next, Nick, did you check the schedule today?
No, we have.
So up next was supposed to be, uh, it was this day in history, this week in history, but I am the host and I can do whatever I want, and you guys will get to enjoy whatever I decide. So I'm switching it up. And in honor of one of my favorite weeks of the year, Shark Week, we're going to talk about sharks for the next second. So, is anybody afraid of sharks? By a show of hands, buddy. Gila, you afraid of sharks?
I am.
Nick is. Dale, are you afraid of sharks, or are you a little bit? I can unmute you. Gila's afraid of sharks? Okay. Dale, are you afraid of sharks?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so most people are afraid of sharks, but the reason why they have Shark Week is because sharks are actually an important part of the ocean's food chain and the ocean's ecosystem. So here, I'm going to show you guys some really cool, fun shark facts here. So there we go. I'm going to do that one more time. All right. Sorry, I had a little bit of a feedback loop there. So a couple of shark facts. So some of the top 10 things. Sharks have been in existence for more than 400 million years. And they actually say now there are more than 500 known species. So 400 million years. So if you want to think about each century is just 100 years. So if you kind of start doing the math, 100 centuries is 100,000 years. So, you know, the amount of time that sharks have been in existence is just mind-blowing. So they have been on the planet for a really, really long time. They can actually detect pulses, electric pulses, through vibrations. So it's called the lateral line. It goes along the shark's sides, and they can pick up different just sort of vibrations in the water. One of the things that they actually studied in Australia was sharks really respond to heavy metal music. So I'm not sure if you ever listened to heavy metal music, the head banging and all that stuff. So they actually put on heavy metal music in the water, and the sharks got all excited. They really responded pretty well to that. So that's kind of interesting. 2/3 of a shark's brain, which is just, it's more than half of the brain, is dedicated just to its sense of smell. So as it's smelling stuff, its brain is processing those smells. Female sharks tend to be larger than male sharks. So a lot of times when they say, wow, that's a big great white, or that's one of the largest tiger sharks that we've ever seen, many times it's a female shark because they're much larger than the male counterparts. I saw this fact. I'm not sure if this one's true. Nick, this one says that sharks are attracted to blood in the water because they mistake it for ketchup. Do you
What?
think that that one's a real fact?
No.
Okay. Okay. So
No.
we'll go ahead and delete that one. Then I'll take that one off of the shark facts. Here's an interesting fact. You are more likely to be killed by a cow than a shark. So all of you guys said that you are nervous about sharks, but how many of you are nervous about cows? Nick, are you nervous around cows?
No.
No, you're not. Okay. And you can see that that ants end up being responsible for 30 people's death a year, and sharks are only responsible for, on average, 5 deaths a year. So it is really, they're not the mindless killing machines that we've always thought that they were since the movie Jaws came out, because I'm pretty sure that that movie shook all of us into kind of being scared of sharks, because it was one of the best horror movies of all times, in my opinion. Hippopotamuses. How many people are afraid of hippopotamuses? Nick, you afraid of hippos?
No.
No, they don't. Normally, most people don't think of hippopotamuses as a scary animal, but you can see on here, hippos are responsible for almost 3,000 deaths annually. So over in Africa, they've been known to attack boats in Africa and people near shore, and they can run on land to like 30 miles an hour. So we have all these other things that most of us aren't afraid of, and they're responsible for more deaths a year than sharks. So it really is a focus of Shark Week to try to draw attention to the fact that sharks are, although they are the apex predator, they're not really interested in humans. They are very happy with the meals that they find with seals and other small marine life. So here's the most well-known shark is the white shark. So most of the time we refer to it as the great white shark. It says few creatures strike more fear into humans than the great white shark. In reality, the great white shark attacks on humans are very rare. One of those attacks to be fatal, however, the size of the great white shark and its efficiency as a predator, they add to that perpetuation of an unnecessary fear. So the great white shark averages 15 feet in length, but some have been recorded as large as 20 feet long. So it's pretty crazy to think just how big some of these sharks are. Nick, how tall are you?
I am 5 foot.
5 foot?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to lay on the floor, some of the largest great white sharks would be if you were laying on the floor and then you got up and you put your feet next to your head again, and 4 times longer than you, so 4 of you laying on the floor. So that's pretty crazy to think of, just how long these sharks are. So that is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So great whites are a blue-gray on the dorsal, on the top part of their bodies. That helps them blend with the bottom, and then that's so that when things are looking down, that gray and that blue kind of blend. So as they're on the bottom, they can't really be seen. So because they prefer to hunt by coming up and straight up and attacking from underneath. But their speed helps them hunt. They search for prey at the surface while swimming below. Once they spot a target, they use a burst of speed to bump its prey while simultaneously biting it. So they have several rows of teeth, and those teeth number in the thousands. So they have thousands of teeth. As teeth fall out, they're rapidly replaced by those rows behind them. So a lot of sharks, they kind of have teeth that grow behind, and as one of those teeth fall out, another tooth from behind kind of starts moving forward. So their teeth are kind of always shifting from back to front. The great white is the top of the food chain and has few threats in the ocean. Only orcas and larger sharks pose a risk. The only risk to the great white shark is human interaction. They're sometimes caught in fishing nets, and or sometimes people even intentionally seek out to catch these fish, and just for sport. Sometimes they sell just their jaws for money. But there's still a whole lot that's not known about the great white. And you can see right there, you can see the multiple rows of teeth that they have that move forward as the teeth fall out. So right now, these are the main areas where great whites are known to swim. So you can see that there really are great whites all over the world. And so for us to have this many beaches that have great white sharks swimming maybe in the vicinity or off the shore or things like that, and total sharks being responsible for only 5 deaths a year, you can see that having a fear of sharks is really not a rational fear. Now, that being said, I am still afraid of sharks. I don't want to say I'm afraid of sharks. I respect them, and I just think that they are just a massive creature. But I also feel that way about horses. I feel that way about hippos. They're just and gorillas. So these are just massive animals that just coming across in the wild, you just can't help but just being impressed with their size and strength and things like that. So just remember that when we think about being afraid of sharks, it should just be a healthy respect for them. So here's some interesting facts. We remember how many millions of years that sharks existed. Sharks have coexisted with dinosaurs. They're trying to discover what character trait that allowed the sharks to surpass the dinosaurs, but fossil evidence shows that they have been around over 450 million years to be exact. So the different periods of the Earth's climate, the sea has, the oceans have changed temperatures, they've changed salt amounts and things like that. And around this time, sharks were appearing, and so they are a very resilient species to be able to outlast all those different things. Sharks can be mesmerized. So this is something that's really cool. If I've seen videos of, if you can look these up on YouTube, people flip sharks on their backs. So when they're floating with their bellies up, they go into like a trance, and they call it tonic immobility. So shark handlers kind of tend to get a shark on top of the head, and they turn them around, and sharks just kind of go in like a trance, and they just kind of float there. It's really cool to see when sharks are gently turned on their back. It's thought to disorient them, causing them to enter the state. So, but the shark's muscles relax, their breathing becomes deep and rhythmic, so it doesn't harm them, but it is kind of a cool thing to see. Humans kill more sharks than sharks kill people. I think we know that because we know that sharks are only responsible for up to 5 deaths a year on average. And we, on average, kill between 75 and 100 million sharks per year. So we are just destroying the huge schools and huge amounts of sharks every year. And sometimes it's not even for good uses. I actually have been on boats that were people were arrested for finning sharks. So sometimes fishermen go into areas and they get a shark and they just take the fins off of it and then throw the shark back in the water to die. So we do a lot more harmful things and a lot more sad things to sharks than sharks ever do to humans. So it's an interesting thing to think about. Only 3 shark species are responsible for human bites and fatalities. So remember we said, I think this number is up to over 500 species of sharks. But really, bull sharks, tiger sharks, and white sharks are considered the most dangerous. But even with these groups, most bites are inspired by curiosity more than animosity. If any of these 3 species wanted to kill a human and eat them, it would be pretty easy to do so. So the fact that the vast majority of these bite victims tend to survive just kind of show that it was a investigatory bite. So they were just trying to figure out what the human was. So sharks are tend to bite things to figure things out. That's why I've seen videos of sharks biting boat engines. They've bitten surfboards, and most of the time it's only one bite because they're just trying to see. They don't have hands to reach out and touch something. They don't have other appendages that they can hold something with. So really all that they have to kind of see what something is or investigate something is their mouth. So that's why most of these, even these sharks that are so feared, the bull shark, the tiger shark, and the white shark, most of the time it's only one bite, because that's why they're totally doing it. Let's see. The U.S. sees more shark attacks than any other country, but very few fatalities. So there was the last shark attack fatality was 2 years ago. In 2018, but in, let's see, 2017, there were 31 people that were attacked. So that's above the normal average. But a lot of the incidents were people that were trying to remove a shark from a fishing line, or basically something that they were kind of egging on a shark. And so we can imagine if raccoons are a scary animal, honestly. If we cornered raccoons and we're trying to reach into a raccoon and bite and pet it or something like that, and we got bit, it would kind of be our own fault, right, for cornering an animal and trying to put our hands or other parts of our body that close to an animal like that. Well, what they're saying is that we had all of these sharks. A lot of them were on fishing lines or caught in nets, and so they're scared and they're cornered, and we had people reaching in and basically trying to put their hands near sharks, which is not really a good thing. Shark spotters make beaches safer for swimmers and sharks. So a lot of times in Australia, they use overhead drones and helicopters to look for sharks near busy beaches. In South Africa, human spotters put up flags on the beach and alert swimmers if a shark is spotted. Shark spotting has been a very successful program. It was a marine biologist by the name of Allison said not only does it reduce the chances of sharks biting people, but it also provides essential ocean safety information. So they're tracking beaches that sharks tend to frequent. They keep track of different times that sharks may come to these beaches, or different things like that. So it is you know, a good practice, and it's something that has shown a lot of success. Because honestly, if there's a bunch of sharks that come in the area, you know, we have to kind of remember we're on their turf, so we should probably just kind of get out of the area. It's the same way that if we were in the African Serengeti and we saw a pride of lions walking around, you would probably do the same thing. You would probably not say, hey, I think this is a good place to go on a hike. You would probably just say, maybe I should walk the other way and let the pride of lions have their area for a little while, right? So shark spotting gives us that same opportunity to kind of do that with sharks. Other shark protection methods that people have come up with have actually been lethal. So they've put up nets and other things that have around popular beaches. But the downside of this is a lot of sharks and other sea life, they get caught up in the nets and they die and they are harmed. And you know, so if we could just continue, you know, realizing that we can coexist with sharks, we don't need to put up lethal shark protection methods like this. Sharks are not only killed to protect humans. A marine biologist says that humans pose a far greater risk to sharks than the other way around. They are currently being killed faster than they can reproduce. Overfishing, particularly the cruel practice of cutting off fins, remember we talked about that, and it's for a soup. That's why we're finning all these magnificent creatures, is for shark fin soup. And then they release the sharks back into the water, and the sharks drowned. So it's responsible for a lot of shark losses. Sharks get caught accidentally by long lines and nets meant for other fish. And remember, we were talking about some of those other protection methods that they use. Whale sharks, one of the least threatening species to humans because they eat plankton similar to whales, were listed on the endangered species list in 2016 when their numbers were found to have been cut in half over the past 70 years. When in fact, these are the 7 animals that are deadlier than sharks. So we know that there are a lot of things that are more dangerous than sharks. So the fact that we're killing millions of them, and we're killing them at a rate that is more than they can reproduce. So this is something that we've always tried to keep in mind when we're fishing. And this for all marine life. If we are catching fish at a rate faster than they can reproduce themselves, then the numbers are going to continue to go down. And if we do that year in and year over, then the fish can eventually go extinct, and we won't have those fish anymore. So if you think of your favorite fish, and you just think over the years, if we're fishing them faster than they can produce more fish, they would never be seen again. So something like Finding Nemo, like a clownfish, if for some reason we just keep pulling them out of the ocean, you know, for our future generations won't be able to get to see those fish in the wild, and that's a sad thing to think about. Whale sharks are the biggest fish in the sea. So sharks are considered fish. Does anybody know why the blue whale is not considered the biggest fish in the sea? Does anybody know that one? By a show of hands, anybody? No. So the blue whale is bigger than the whale shark. However, whales are mammals. They breathe air like you and I. So whales have to come up to the surface. They have to exhale and then inhale a large amount of air, and then they can go back under. Sharks are fish. They breathe through gills, and so they get their oxygen through the water. So that makes the biggest shark, which is the whale shark here. So the biggest shark is then, in fact, the biggest fish that is in the ocean. And you can see just how big this giant fish is. And you can see that this man right here would easily fit right inside of that whale shark. So it can be a very intimidating looking creature. But the whale shark eats plankton, which are very tiny little fish that float around. So the way that it actually feeds itself is just by sucking in water. And when it exhales the water, it has little they look like brushes, and they filter the plankton in and keep that plankton and nourishment inside their mouth. So they do not eat big fish. They don't eat humans, obviously. They don't eat other sharks or anything like that. So they just eat these tiny little plankton. So very interesting that the largest fish in the world eats one of the smallest fish. When you think about it that way, it's kind of interesting. Sharks come in all different sizes. So this is a dwarf lantern shark, which is it can fit in the palm of your hand. So that's just how small this little shark is. It's been found in the Caribbean off the shore of Colombia and Venezuela, which are in South America, and it's thought to live more than 900 feet below the surface. According to the Smithsonian Institution, they have photophores, which are organs that create light chemically in their fins and bellies. The bioluminescence apparently helps camouflage them from predators looking up at them, making them blend in with the light from above on the water. So these sharks basically can twinkle on their bellies. So if they are above other life and the other fish look up, they see that light coming down, and it reminds them, and they don't really see the shark. So it's kind of a camouflage way to do that. Dusty, did you have a question?
Actually, I have something to say. My sister's old boyfriend, Luis, used to live in Venezuela.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a interesting place down in South America, known for rainforest and its magnificent beaches. So, it's just pretty crazy to think a shark the size of the palm of your hand. Now, these sharks, that's a white shark right there. That is it's pictures like that kind of make people afraid of sharks, because that is just such a massive creature. And great white sharks can actually jump over 10 feet out of the water. So 10 feet is a basketball hoop. So if you can imagine a shark that we said could get up to 20 feet long. So a 20-foot long creature that can jump over a basketball hoop. That is something that you should you have to respect. You have to be impressed by that. Great whites are clever predators. Sharks are smart, says the marine biologist. She points out that great whites show up every year to feed on a group of Cape Fear seal pups off of Seal Island. And the Cape Fear seals are really smart and agile. So catching an experienced adult is hard work and difficult. But white sharks avoid this by targeting more inexperienced seals. So as seals get a little bit older, they learn ways that they can outsmart great white sharks. One of the things that they do is they swim at the shark's tail, because sea otters and seals know that they are faster than sharks. So they basically make a lot of quick turns and do things to kind of outmaneuver the shark. But where the sharks kind of get the advantage is they go way down, and the seals will be up on the surface, and they come up from the bottom, and they hit the seal from underneath, and that's where they kind of launch out of the water like that after they conduct one of those maneuvers. So that, anybody know what kind of shark that is? Anybody? You can tell by the shape of its head. Nobody? So if you look at that shark, because it has that interesting flat head, this is called a hammerhead shark, and its eyes are actually out here at the end of its that flat part of its head. So it's kind of an interesting shark. So very easy to spot. It looks like one of the old pickaxe things that you've probably seen. Maybe if you've seen Minecraft or anything, you have the little pickaxe thing. So you can see that's where it would get its name, the hammerhead shark. But sharks are a important ecological niche as the apex predator. So remember, all ecological, all of the environments that we live in, they have to have that food chain. And if we didn't have the role that the sharks play, picking off the weakest members of the prey, the seals would potentially they would be starving and get hungry and become more unhealthy as well, because the sharks serve a role of keeping those numbers at a controlled amount. So removing the apex predator causes a domino effect that can impact other species. It can even go all the way down to the levels of algae or the corals. Without sharks thinning the ranks, a large predatory fish can become even more abundant. When they start eating more of the fish that typically graze on algae, then the algae may proliferate and outcompete the coral for sunlight. So you can just see that if you remove one species out of a well-functioning ecological system, it can cause adverse effects all the way down that food chain. Great white sharks are travelers. So over the past couple decades, researchers have been trying to figure out where sharks go and why they go. And so they started tagging sharks. Has anybody ever seen how they tag the sharks? They stick a little, like a little tracker, and they poke it right onto this area in the dorsal fin. And it's similar to like an earring. It doesn't hurt the shark or cause any long-term harm. They just feel a little prick, and then the tag basically stays on the shark. And so this helps researchers track where sharks have gone. And they have shown that West Coast sharks can travel north and south between California and Mexico and spend several months of the year out in the middle of the Pacific, about halfway to Hawaii. And then East Coast sharks range from Newfoundland to the Gulf of Mexico. And in 2005, a great white named Nicole swam from Africa all the way to Australia and back in 9 months for a total of 12,000 miles. So, if you just think about that, I know the trip from Columbus to Cleveland is 150 miles. So to put that in perspective, if a shark was to swim from Columbus to Cleveland, that would only be 150 miles. And this shark, Nicole, swam 12,000 miles in the course of 9 months. So the amount of movement and travel that these sharks do is pretty crazy to think about. Sharks can never stop swimming, so they don't. This is actually how they breathe. So even when sharks are sleeping, they're still moving. It's not true of all species, but the great white, the tiger shark, and the mako shark all need to keep moving in order to breathe. So if a shark was ever held still, it wouldn't be able to breathe. It needs that water moving past through its gills to be able to pull the oxygen out to keep breathing. The marine biologist that we've been talking with on here has used tags and accelerometers, the same technology which is like on your Fitbit or your iWatch or something like that, to track the way that sharks move underwater. They found that great whites do something that wasn't expected. They repeatedly swim from the surface down to the seafloor and then back up. So that's just a really interesting thing, that they basically are up at the surface and then they swim all the way down to the bottom of the ocean and then swim back up. That's just kind of an interesting thing, that they just glide, and when they're going down, they when they're going up, they have to beat their tails pretty strongly to get to the surface. So it might be a kind of a way to conserve energy, that they just kind of glide down to the bottom. So that's kind of like a hang glider. They just kind of float down, and they don't have to use a bunch of energy moving their tail. But then when they come up, they have to move their tail, which uses energy, and then they'll glide down again. Because you could think, if you had to move constantly, like if you had to keep walking to or keep your body moving through the air, you would probably, if you had the opportunity to step on one of those airport lines where you get on there and it just kind of carries you through there, you would probably do that. So that's kind of what sharks do, is they're kind of just coasting down. Then our final shark is how long their life spans can be. So sharks generally live pretty long, and great whites can live up to 70 years. And Greenland sharks live up to 400 years. So Greenland sharks appear to be the longest living vertebrates on Earth. Scientists determine their ages by studying layers of eye tissue. So it's kind of an interesting way to find out how old something is. But they estimate that these sharks might not reach maturity until they're 150 years old. So you could have a shark that was 100 years old and it's still just kind of a teenager, because these sharks can live up to 400 years old. So that means that when these sharks are harmed or fished or killed, it can really have long-lasting effects on that species, because they're not able to create more sharks for 150 years. So other sharks that have are turning out to be older than researchers thought as well. So within the last 10 years, they've started testing these shark tissues and indicate that some of these sharks were alive during the 1950s and 60s. So they can be some of the oldest fish on the planet are sharks. So just some interesting facts about sharks. Hopefully I know everyone that was asked was kind of afraid of sharks. So hopefully we talked through some things and you're not quite as scared of sharks, knowing that they're only responsible for 5 attacks a year. So, so that being said, I know Nick, you said you were afraid of sharks. Do you have a different view towards them yet?
No.
No, you're still afraid of them?
No. No.
Not as much.
No much.
Okay, that's good. So you have a little bit of a different view of sharks after learning so many facts. That's good. Dusty, how about yourself? Do you you feel like you have a different view towards sharks?
I think sharks bite.
They do, and we talked about the fact that they don't have hands. So
And I also have family members and friends that live down in the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, yeah, and so they've probably seen sharks and have been around sharks before, and maybe they you know, they have similar feelings towards sharks of just a respect for sharks, but I don't feel like we should necessarily fear those sharks because, like you said, sharks do bite, but a lot of times it is out of curiosity. So, like we said, sharks don't have hands. So, if a shark wanted to see what something is, for us, we would pick it up and we would look at it and we would try to figure out what something is. But a shark doesn't have that. So, what it does is it uses its mouth to kind of feel something out and try to figure out what it is. So that's one of the main reasons why sharks attack or sharks bite things that we feel that they shouldn't. Dale, do you have any different views about sharks after today?
Not really.
Okay. You still are kind of afraid of sharks?
I never really been around any of them.
Okay, that's fair too. You know, where Dale lives, he's not going to see a whole lot of sharks. So maybe he's not really afraid of sharks, but he doesn't really have to worry about them either. So, Tammy, did you learn anything about sharks today? Thumbs up. Okay. So hopefully we learned a little bit about sharks today. Hopefully we respect sharks and see the important purpose that they have in our oceans. So that's all for our lunchtime session. Make sure you guys stick around for our last segment of the day. We'll be back shortly with one of our favorite classes, and that's painting class. So we'll see you soon. I will let you guys take yourselves off mute and socialize. Until then, stick around.